Thank you very much. Can you hear me in the back? My name is Frank Holloman, and I want to be your superintendent of public education. Like many of you in this audience, I grew up in a small town in a rural area of South Carolina. With me is my wife, Ann. She and I grew up 8 miles apart, but didn't know each other until we were about 19. She also grew up in rural South Carolina. And what I learned growing up and living in small town South Carolina, and in raising our 3 children in South Carolina, all of whom have graduated from the public schools, that the public schools are the heart of every community in South Carolina. And we have strong evidence of that right behind us. In the center of this community is a historic public school. And for that reason, and perhaps no other reason do we need, I am opposed to tax credit private school vouchers that would undercut our public schools. Not only would they undercut our public schools, but they would raise taxes for all of the rest of us. So anybody who tells you they're for private school tax credit vouchers, just keep in mind they're in favor of raising taxes for everyone else. That's what's happened in the past. That's what will happen this time. It is so critically important that we support our public schools, and unfortunately my opponent presents the single most expensive proposal anybody running for any state office has presented, and that is his support for 2 different varieties of private school tax credits. He sometimes says it's okay because you get a tax deduction for giving to your church. Why shouldn't you get a tax credit for private school tuition? Well, the difference is a deduction is worth 7 cents. A tax credit is worth 100 cents on the dollar. Under his priorities, private school tax credits get 14 times the tax benefit of the donation to your church. I think that's getting your priorities backwards. We should be building our churches, building our communities, and building our public schools. We should be doing that through early childhood education. We should be doing that by doing everything we can to see that South Carolina is #1 in the nation in school reform. And unfortunately, my opponent, perhaps the only leader in the state who takes his position, thinks we shouldn't even compete for $175 million with our neighboring states in the race to the top competition. My final point is this. I spent my life in South Carolina. I spent my life working in public education one way or another. As Walt said, when our Governor Dick Riley was our U.S. Secretary, he asked me to go to Washington with him to be the U.S. Deputy Secretary and to be his Chief of Staff. I helped start our early childhood programs throughout South Carolina. I helped start a high school graduation initiative that's helping our most challenged kids graduate from high school. And what I want to do as superintendent, and the reason I'm running, is to be your superintendent of public education, to see that children like these and these and these get off to the best start possible, and to stand up for them and to stand up for our public schools. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Holloman. Our next speaker is a Republican candidate for State Superintendent of Education. He's a well-known Newberian. He's an immediate past president of Newberry College. Before that, he was a general in the United States Army. It's my pleasure to introduce to you Dr. Mick Zaitz.
Good morning. It's nice to be here. And Frank, I appreciate you talking about me during your whole speech. I'm a proud resident of Newberry County and have been for the last 10 years, and I'm proud that my children are graduates of Newberry County schools and attended schools here. I'm running for your superintendent because I understand what teachers go through in the classroom. I've been a classroom teacher. You know, to stand in front of a group of young people and keep them entertained and interested and educate them in a process is hard work. And to do that for 6 hours and then go home, and good teachers fall in love with their students, and they anguish about the kind of home that their kids are in and the environment they're experiencing, and will they get encouragement for homework? And they've got lesson plans, and they've got tests to grade, and good teachers work hard. And I understand that. To the best of my knowledge, my opponent's never been a teacher. I also understand what it's like to run a school and why our principals have to work so hard to lead, motivate, inspire their faculty, to organize budgets and set priorities. And having been president of Newberry College for 10 years, and I see some of my students here, I understand what that's like. South Carolina has some of the best schools in the nation, and they have absolutely some of the worst. We have everything in between. A study was released recently by Education Week, which is the national education publication, that said South Carolina is 49th in the nation in high school graduation rate. Ladies and gentlemen, we can do better than that. I know how to do better than that. And I can improve high school graduation rates. It's important that we take these kids who are leaving school without the ability to get a job, without the ability to be contributing members of society, and without the ability to be taxpayers. We have got to provide them the skills and the reading ability to be contributing members of society. As your superintendent, I can assure you I will work to provide that opportunity. Mick Zase, I'm last on your ballot, but I hope to be first in your heart. Thank you very much.